Welcome to our program today. My special guest this time is Bert Squirrel, a longtime resident of Lively and a longtime gardener as well. And I think there's no doubt about it. Once you have a chance to see what he has in his garden, you know that here's a man who knows what he's doing, and he's done it for a long time.
Yes, thank you.
This is quite an impressive garden, Bert. It's like a little world of its own.
Well, yes, you get attached to it, and as I've said before, sometimes you talk to these guys too, because the thing is that I like my dog, they never answer me back.
Good. Well, when they start answering you back, then
Yes,
it's
that's the
time that you have to call in some help.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I want to talk in a little while about the way the yard is structured, because I'm really fascinated with the way that you've broken things into little segments. But before we get moving on that, we have a wall in the back that you have done some nice things with.
Well, yes. Originally, this was a bank, and it was just grass, and it was a bank, and I dug the bank down, and then I put in this wall. But the wall is fine, but if you have a rose bed, like I have a rose bed here, then you have to move those for the winter. Now, what I do with them, I take them to the back, and I put them in a trench, lay them down in a trench, and cover them with about 2 inches of soil.
Now that really fascinates me, because that sounds like an awful lot of work.
Well, it's work all right, and you wait until the fall, of course, until the leaves have just about gone. Not necessarily all of them, but most of them are gone. And you lay them down, and it's ticklish, but you can just you chop off a lot of this stuff, the big stuff here. You can cut this off here, because you're going to prune them in the spring anyway.
Exactly.
So it is as if you have to put a bush like this, that length. This one will probably go up here, so I would cut it down about there.
Yeah, but it's the digging though. Like, I guess that's the difference between a man gardening and myself. It's such hard work for me to dig things up and move them.
I just use a fork with these, and I just put it in and they come out.
You have a pretty good success rate then with hybrid tea roses because of the way you treat them.
Oh, definitely. Last winter was the worst winter we've had for a long time. But a normal winter, there's no problem with these. Now, in the back row, I would just cut these off, and then I'd mound them up about 10 inches high with the soil from the front.
So if you have them growing in the second row, those ones don't get moved?
No.
They're okay?
Not the ones at the back. No, they're fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. And the soil I take from here to hill them up, and then I throw stuff in here like anything that I've saved, old grass and that. Anything to
provide that little bit of insulation.
Yeah.
But that's an important thing to remember when you're dealing with a sudden drop like this, because the frost doesn't always hit only from the top. It'll sneak in through the sides as well.
You see what happens, you get March, for instance, and the stone attracts the heat and holds the heat.
Sure.
And then nighttime, it might be minus 15 or minus 20, you see.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
So if you have anything on a wall like that you hope to winter, you nearly always have to move it.
Yeah.
Maybe some hardy hedges are okay, but I haven't tried them. But these roses, you have to move them.
Right.
There's no other way. No other way at all.
I'm really impressed with your beautiful gladiola that's just starting. Those are the first 2 spikes that I see in your yard, but such a pretty color.
It is. I really like that color. I don't know how I picked that one, but I should get some more anyway, I guess, one of these days.
Moving on, I mentioned that I wanted to touch a little bit on the way you've structured your yard, because it reminds me very much of a secret kind of a garden. When you're coming down the street, you can't help but have your eyes caught by the neatness of your front portion, and it grabs your attention. But you always have a sense that there's so much more in the back. If I could just get to know this fellow well enough so he would invite me into his garden.
Well, that is true. The front I did it by degrees, really, you know, and I would think about this and then I'd suddenly decide to do it because I've changed all of this in the last 10 years, you know, to what it was in front.
Oh, really?
And then I had maples in the front once, which I took down because they're a nuisance. But no, it isn't terribly hard, of course. You can do anything you want if you try it, you know.
Well, you have to have the right ideas for, you know, depending on what you're looking for. But with your row of cedars and your fencing and your gate, the rest of it is a little bit more private.
That's
and it
right,
gives you a sense of intimacy once you get into the other. It's like having separate little rooms in your outside.
Yes, usually, like I'll get a gardening catalogue in the end of December or maybe middle of December, and I just thumb through it and I picture mostly what I'm going to have, you know, the bed. Like I decide on the short snaps this time, you know, and they did very well.
Yes.
And I like to change pretty every year. But I really like that kind of stuff, the marigolds.
Yes.
They're doing exceptionally well.
The marigold planting up against the house, the bed that runs along the side of the house is really eye-catching. And you were telling me that you've got a special nickname for it. Let's share that.
Yes, Inco Gold.
It's actually supposed to be Inca Gold, but Bert calls it Inco Gold. Being an old Inco man, he's still very loyal to his company. But that again is such an eye-catching color, along with
really,
the
you know, it's a beauty.
And it looks nice and neat all the way through the summer. And this is the portion where you have your table with your chairs, so a little bit of a relaxation area, and water.
Well, it used to, the water the pump went, so I didn't renew it.
A little bit of a bird bath there anyway.
Yes, it is. And the water came out of the fish's mouth, and it was just a matter of circulation.
Yeah.
But it's quite old.
A nice mix here because you've got the shade from the garage next door, so you can have shade growing plants as well as moving into the sun-loving things. So
that's right.
it gives you more flexibility with what you can plant.
Yes, that does have a lot of shade there.
An awful lot of English daisies as a border plant.
Yes, they're a very nice daisy. Well, what happens really, they're very early, and they're flowering in April, and that's when the blooms are the largest.
Yes.
They have nice large blooms, but I let them go through the summer and I don't take off the seed pods enough, you know. And I split some of them and use them for next year.
But
they'll all be dug out.
But that's part of good planning too, to have things that'll grow as early in the spring as possible to spread out that color. It's a challenge trying to synchronize everything together.
Yeah, they look a mess now, but they're really great in the spring. Really great. They're large flowers, and of course they've all compact themselves now, because when you first put them in, you allow 6 or 7 inches between each one.
Right.
They just spread.
You've got such a good green thumb that everything grows like crazy.
It's lucky sometimes.
Good showing of Sweet Williams at this time of the year with the various red to pink and salmon colored shades leading into white as well. It's very nice. Very, very nice. And hostas, you're a hosta lover as well.
Well, I have the 3 colors. There's the one in the front. It's actually a variegated one. That one is just about finished. This one is just coming into being. And there's the one over there is a white, and that is scented.
Oh, okay.
And that is very nice. But I broke it up. It's quite a lot. See, all those young ones in the front there, they're white, and quite easy to break these things up, you know.
I also like the way you've incorporated your houseplants into your border here.
Well, yes. I didn't want to put in there, tell you the truth. I ran out of stuff, and so I thought, well, I'll stick those in. They're doing all right.
Yeah, and they're just the runners from Spider Plant.
Yes.
Or Trader Scantia. Yeah.
And it's amazing, because I put one in there with no roots at all, and I just kept it watered, and it took.
It's not complaining in the slightest bit.
No. They're doing quite well. Well, it's just something. That's what I do. I stick stuff in, and people say, oh, Fancy having that in there, but I'll put it in anyway.
Why not?
Yeah.
We're going to move into the next room in Bert Squirrel's backyard, and that means that we have to take a short break, and we hope that you'll join us in a minute when we wander through the other portion.
Close your books, class. You have 20 minutes to complete this test. You may begin.
Well, everybody has got to choose.
Baby, 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 baby.
And with your choices, you win or lose. So be strong, keep singing this song. Doing what's right is never wrong.
What's the capital of North Dakota?
So be strong, keep singing this song. Doing what's right is never wrong. So be strong, keep singing this song. Doing what's right is never wrong.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay, we're now in the deeper portion of the garden in the backmost part, and I find it again interesting that some of these things happen because of some external reason, and the fence, of course, here is what designates this as a separate area.
Yes, well, for one thing, it separates it, but it also acts as a windbreak, because it is quite an expanse here, and too much wind and you're for everlasting propping stuff up, because you can tie it in advance, which I sometimes forget to do, but anyway, that's primarily why the fence is there. It's just to break the wind.
Yeah.
It's a good windbreak anyway.
Sure. And it's also visually very pretty. Nice background for your various perennials.
It is really, it's a good idea actually to split it like that. I know you could have a wide bed, but it's easier this way, because, you know, you can get the tall stuff at the back, supposedly. I sometimes make a mistake, but
we all do.
yeah.
But it gives you another height to look at, and different texture and that sort of thing too. Your red phlox is really performing very well for us
It is
today.
really. It's great.
I think it knew that it was going to be one of the star attractions,
And
so it grew accordingly.
And I think at the end there, that bluish fine flower is oh, I just thought of the name, I'll forget it again. It's lavender, it's not lavender, it's
Lithrums?
I think it's sea.
Oh, sea lavender.
Yeah,
I think so.
I think it's sea lavender.
It's one of the statuses,
yes,
isn't it?
that's right, yeah.
And it's very pretty as a dried plant.
It dries really
if
good.
If you wanted to use that in winter arrangements, you can pick it before it goes to seed in the late summer, and it keeps quite well.
Yes, it dries very well. It does really. Better than the gypsophila, I think.
Yes, although that's pretty too with the very dainty pink blossoms. Right in behind you, we're hiding the very pretty Shasta daisies. And Bert was telling me that he has several of them, but all of them are slightly different, and these ones are very pretty, shaggy tips on them with a bit of a double effect.
Yes, see, we, with the seed, I seed a different batch every year, and it's interesting to what you get. And I get rid of quite a lot of them, but I keep some. And I usually go by the leaves. Sometimes you can tell the difference, what's going to happen by the difference way the edges are serrated.
Oh, really?
And stuff. And I pick that out, you know. Like maybe one is just near plain leaf, and I'll keep one of those, and the others are serrated more. I'll keep some of those and see what I've got.
So that gives you a little bit of a clue as to what you're going to be
But last winter was bad.
Well, last winter was so rough for many perennials, and I think we're all in a position now where we have to sort of trade off things, and if you've got something that your neighbor lost, we're anxiously sharing so that we can replenish our stock again, because almost everybody that I've spoken to this spring and summer has lost something very dear to them.
Yes, well they do, but what I've been doing, I've been seeding perennials every year, so I always get something.
You got something new even though you've lost
That's
something
right,
that
yes.
you've had for time. Let's wander over here because you've got some pretty borders set up with your Lavatera that is very showy.
Well, this double daylily is really an excellent daylily, and it flowers very well.
That is the only double daylily I've ever seen. I'm really impressed.
Well, it's the only one I've ever had. I have the single yellow and that kind of stuff, but this does really good.
And it's a pretty pretty shade. It's not overly intense,
No.
so it doesn't scream out at your for attention, but it also is strong enough colored that it does let you know that it's there.
That's right, yes. And these are very much the same again, I think.
And a lot of these are you start them
phlox.
up yourself.
Yes, these are phlox, an annual phlox, you know, as opposed to perennial phlox up there. But they're quite nice. They you get some nice colours. Although
in the background, we've got some shrubberies that have
we have orange
gone beyond their
blossom,
bloom.
orange blossom and lilacs.
Beautiful lilacs
and,
some time ago.
Yeah. So it makes a good setting, and it also it shelters too. You know, there's a sheltering effect there anyway.
That's right. And your crabapple in the middle, so that you've got a little bit of difference, not the full expanse of lawn.
Right. That wasn't the one I ordered. They sent it anyway, and it's a double pink, but the fruit's no good.
Well, you can't
eat
have everything.
it. No, you can't eat it.
But I'm sure it's